In this video we will add this watermark image to this image, and the output will be this one here. You see that watermark has been added to this image and it's somewhat transparent. So let's delete this output and try to reproduce that output again using Python. For this, again, we will use CV2, so the OpenCV library, and the first lines of code will be the ones which load this JPEG image and these PNG images as OpenCV image objects. So I'll copy that and repeat it here and say watermark.png. So load the two images. That's the first step. Then the next step, how do we want to approach this problem? So we have this image and we have that image, and we want to place this image somewhere here near the corner, actually exactly at the corner. And the way we're going to do this is by using an OpenCV method called addWeighted, which basically blends two images together. So we want to blend this watermark with this image, but we want to specify where in this image the watermark will go. So we set somewhere here, therefore we need to calculate now the coordinates of this point somewhere in here. But what you should know first is that the coordinate system of an image has its origin in the upper left corner, exactly here. So that's the 0, 0 point. So that is 0, 0. Now, what is the coordinate of this point here? Well, that would be something like 500, 0. Why? Because along the x, we suppose that this is around 500, right? Let's assume this width is 500. Therefore, the value of the x-axis in here will be around 500. So this one here. And in this direction, we didn't move. So that's why y is 0. And then what would we have down here at this point? Well, that would be something like 500 for x and let's say 1000 for y. So we went 500 to the right side and 1000 down. Right, so what is the coordinate of this point then? Well, since we will have that other image, watermark, which has a shape like this, right? Then the coordinate here is 500 minus, let's say this image is 100. So it would be 500 minus 100. So that's the first coordinate. The second coordinate would be, let's say, 1000 minus, let's say this is 30. So with that, we have the two coordinates for this. So 500 minus 100 takes us in here, and 1000 minus 30 takes us in this point. So that's the formula, right? So let's go back to the code and calculate those coordinates. But for that we need access to image.shape. So that will print out, image.shape to get the shape, so the dimensions of the image, because those numbers that I was talking about were pixels, right? So each pixel is 1 unit in the coordinate system. Therefore, 52,297 is about this watermark image. Actually, I named them the same. So let's say watermark for this and say watermark here, right? So 52,297. 52 is the height and 297 is the width. So we see that shape has y as the first axis. Therefore, what we want to do here is say x equals to image 1, so we get 297. Actually, we get the x of the big image, and then we minus that with the x of the other image. So we would have image.shape 1 minus watermark.shape 1. So what is image.shape 1 and what is watermark.shape 1? Well, this is that one, right? Because watermark.shape gives us this one, and the item with index 1 is 297, right? And the same goes for the main image. So basically now what we're doing is we are applying this formula. So 500, the x of the main image, so this one here, minus 100, the x of the watermark image, this one in here. So if we print this out, we get 183. And we do the same for y, so let's copy that here, and we say 0 there, 0 here, and this is y, right? Now what we can do is we can create a new variable, let's say watermark portion or watermark place, whatever you like to call it. This would be image y. I'll explain you what I'm doing in just a bit, and that. And if I say cv2.imWrite, so I create an image file with a name such as watermark place.jpg, using this watermark place image object, and I run this, an image is generated, a file, and we open that, and this is what we see. So what is this? Well, this is this portion here, somewhere in here. So what we did is we extracted, we created a new image out of this portion here, and now we can blend, we can use this piece of image to blend it with our watermark. Because if you check the shape of this watermark place image, you're going to get the same dimensions as this watermark image. So they have the same dimensions now. Therefore, we can go ahead and apply the add weighted method, which will get as argument the first source. So you see src1, the alpha, and src2. So src1 would be watermark place, then we have the alpha. So alpha is the first weight for the first image, in this case watermark place. So we are blending two images, and the output now is somehow a mixture between both. So you want to specify which of them you want to put more weight. We want a mixture, so I would say 0.5 for alpha, and then we have the source number 2, which is the watermark. So we are blending the watermark, this one with this, right? Therefore, the watermark also needs a weight. Let's put the same. And we also need to set a gamma. A gamma is now a value which can be added to all the pixels. We don't want any additional value to be added to the values of the pixels. So I'm going to add 0 here. Right. So this will create a new image. Therefore, I'm going to assign this into a variable and then demonstrate you what this variable is all about. So cv2.imWrite blend.jpg, blend is the image object, and run. So blend.jpg now is the mixture between the two images. So you can play around with these values if you like, but I'm just going to leave them as they are and carry on with putting this blend now back to the image. And that's very easy to do. You just refer to the portion of the image you want to change, which is that. So what is this anyway? So image is this one, right? elves.jpg, which is this one here. Now we're doing y and this colon. And that means all the pixels of this image from the y value, which is somewhere here. So we are extracting this portion, and then we have also x, so from x and to the right. So x is somewhere in here, right? So from there and down, from here and down, and what we get is basically this area here. So now this area we want to change it with blend. So that area will be equal to blend this image. In other words, this area will be replaced by that image. And cv2 dot I'm right elves watermarked.jpg, and this is image, so this one in here, this one. But of course this image has been changed at this point, so it's a mutable object, this image, and therefore you can change it like this. So if I run now and check elves watermarked, we see that the watermark has been successfully placed in the image. And that's the final code. I think this was an important exercise for you because it was an opportunity to understand the coordinate system of images, and by knowing how the coordinate system works, you can do different manipulations on your image. Maybe you can add another layer on another image, like an entire layer. In this case, we just added something, a layer in a particular portion of the image, so just here, but you can add an entire image layer, the transparent layer, to an entire image by playing around with these numbers, the weights of each image. So thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you later.